That's fine.
We are here downtown Phoenix, Arizona today at the Audit Integrity Election results, hopefully soon. But first and foremost, like I promised you at 9:30, I apologize half an hour later. This is MAAP Real Talk Show with you, George Nemeh. I'm a little bit loud. I'm trying to get the mic working because everybody's complaining, oh, the mic. I am here with one of the greatest candidates running for the state of Arizona as a patriot. There's so much to talk about him. This gentleman, his name is Bryan Masche. Now, as running for, now, people say, candidate this, candidate that, but I think he's more than a candidate in my book because he's worked so hard. He was in the trenches during the period where nobody was in famous people to come out. People were scared, people not, like they were panicking. And this gentleman that I'm about to talk to right now today, and I'm honored to speak with as a candidate for the first time, for me that is first time speaking with him, although I filmed him so many times, Mr. Bryan Masche. Thank you so much for taking this moment.
Hey George, it's great to see you. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you having me on today. Appreciate having this excellent opportunity to address Arizona, to address the people, and to talk to them about why I'm running for governor of Arizona in 2022.
Right.
You hit it right on the head right from the start when you said the only one that has been out here from day one. So from the day the election was stolen, right here at the Capitol, right in front of the flag, I was there day one, the first night, literally down to the tabulation center with Josh Barnett and Paul Gosar, and Kelly Townsend was there. Kelly, state senator out in Mesa, and Paul Gosar, U.S. congressman. They were the only elected members.
Thank you for clarifying their titles, because they're also running. Remember,
that's right.
Gosar.
They were the only members of government from the state of Arizona that were down there with us. Even previous to the election, I was fighting it back against COVID literally from day one. I'm an operating room nurse. I'm a nationally certified family nurse practitioner. I have 2 master's degrees, an MBA, a master's as an NP, a bachelor's degree in nursing, as well as a bachelor's degree in justice studies, a minor in political science. I've been fighting this literally from the start. March 7th was the first diagnosed case of COVID in Arizona. March 17th, I was already being blocked on Facebook, which to me makes perfect sense that big tech was obviously involved in all of this from the start, because otherwise why would they have just been blocking some nurse from out in Phoenix, Arizona? So George, I hear that you've got some questions for me, so I'd love to address those.
First thing I want to ask you, the most important one is about economics.
Sure, absolutely.
Because everybody talks about everything else, the audit, everything is going. How would you assess Doug Ducey's last 1 year in particular, year and a half since the COVID?
Sure. So from economics, that's a great question, George, because I have an MBA, so I have a master's in business.
That's what I want to know, because you have 2 degrees.
That's right. No, 4. 4 degrees, 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees.
2 masters, I mean.
So that's a great question. So the last year and a half during COVID, Doug Ducey's response has been absolutely tragic. It's been terrible. This executive order should have ended before it ever even started. It never should have been voted on. We had members of not only the Democrats, but also the Republican Party that voted to do this. Our own Senate President, Karen Fann, sent out an email telling Republicans to vote to sine die because they wanted the money to keep flowing into Arizona. We are now flush with $24 billion in the state treasury, but that came off of the backs of shutting down small businesses, of telling people you're essential, you're not essential, you need to shut down, you need to stay open. This is wrong. Government has no place to do this whatsoever. It's completely unconstitutional. All of Biden's mandates are unconstitutional. This is ridiculous. From an economics standpoint, Doug Ducey has been an absolute train wreck for the state of Arizona. He's on the board of TGen, the Translational Genomics Research Foundation. This is a pharmaceutical-based company that literally tests vaccines on children. This man should have been recalled. My friends and I actually filed the first recall against Doug Ducey. I've been in the fight to remove him from the very beginning, as well as the fight for election integrity. From an economic standpoint, we need to move to a 0% corporate tax rate for all businesses in the state of Arizona.
I heard you say that in private. I wanted to hear it on mic.
Right.
That was excellent, by the way.
0%. Like, we should literally be the same as Nevada. Not only a 0% corporate income tax rate to encourage businesses to continue to come to the state, as well as to grow businesses. What we should also be doing is, I'm for 100% legalization of gambling completely in the state of Arizona. not just on the Indian reservation, not just the sport booking that Doug Ducey helped pass, complete and total legalized gambling. We are all adults. We have all responsibility over our money, over our income, over our lives. There is no difference between Phoenix and Las Vegas. We have the same climate, we have the same type of businesses, we already have trade shows and things that happen here. There is no reason that we shouldn't have legalized gambling in the state of Arizona. Obviously, we'll have to work with the Indian tribes for that because they do have the laws on gambling right now. But I always come from a position of abundance, meaning that there is more than enough in the pie for everyone. So I don't have an issue with saying, you know what, let's legalize gambling completely in the state of Arizona. And I still feel like there's a way to negotiate that with the Indian tribes where they can still make the money off of it that they rightly deserve. So from an economic standpoint, I am an Austrian school economist, Ludwig von Mises, Alfred Hayek, Milton Friedman, Ayn Rand, like a real economist, unlike any of these other candidates who don't have a master's degree in business, who haven't run businesses. I've run my own real estate investment company. I worked in pharmaceutical sales for 5 years, so I know the dirty side of the pharmaceutical industry as well. No one can speak and articulate what's going on with regards to the vaccine, the mandates, all these studies that have been published.
We're going to come to this.
There's no one else from an economic standpoint that has a better plan for the state of Arizona.
So I'm going to not shift gear because you're running for governor after all.
Sure.
So it's going to be around the governor's situation.
Right.
From what you know, I don't know how much you know from back when in the 90s when they put the Patriot Act.
Sure.
And you know that was the reason why they could go to state, and the governor could go into a state of emergency any given moment that requires it and ask for it, right? In your experience, are we in a state of emergency, sir?
So there is absolutely no emergency going on from a pandemic standpoint. I am an operating room nurse. I've been in the hospital literally from day one, and I can tell you, ICUs are always at 90% capacity, or 95%, or 100% capacity. Literally when they say the morgues are overfilled and we have to bring refrigerated trucks, that's a complete lie. I've worked in trauma hospitals, 3 of the largest ones in the valley. One of them, Abrazo West Valley, only has 4 morgue bays. So on a Friday night when I worked there, if there was a head-on collision and there were 2 people in each bay and they all 4 died, that would put the morgue completely at 100% capacity. So there aren't like rows and rows and bays of morgue spots in a hospital to put people. So when they try to say, oh, it's at 90% capacity, that might mean 9 out of the 10 bays are filled. So there is no real medical emergency. We've known it from the beginning. We've known the tests are rigged. We've known that in the hospitals, they'll test the same person multiple times while they're in inpatient. So grandpa goes into the hospital because he had a heart attack. He's there for a month. They're going to test him at least 2, maybe 3 times a month. And then they're actually going to go and count those as all new cases. This is corrupt. It has been corrupt from the beginning. The media refuses to speak about this. In the last year and a half, I've met plenty of reporters, especially now since running for governor, and they do not want to report the truth. I'm telling you, there is no medical emergency in the state of Arizona. This is a bold-faced lie. Take it from an operating room nurse who's a nationally certified nurse practitioner. I know better. You've all been lied to.
What do you want to tell the voters?
Yes.
In this particular case right now?
Yes.
From Bryan?
Yes. So from a voting standpoint, there's 3 major things that I hit on. The very first one is obviously securing the border. That is number 1 for me. I'm a veteran. I spent 8 years in the United States Air Force and the security forces. My job was to actually shut a border down, okay? And to keep people from infiltrating an airbase and to keep people safe. I deployed 3 times to the Middle East. The last time was during Operation Iraqi Freedom. I am the only governor candidate with a point-by-point plan on how we actually secure the border. This is not illegal immigration. You will never hear me call it illegal immigration. This is an actual invasion, an invasion of the country that is being done on purpose, orchestrated by members of our own government, by obviously the Democratic Party and members within the Republican Party. So they're trying to get 18 million new people into the country register them as Democrats, and then we, as Republicans, never win an election again. So from a standpoint of securing the border, I am the only candidate with an actual plan that will actually get this done. Number two is election integrity. Like I said earlier, I've been there since day one, since before the election actually started, and I've been fighting back. And I am the one that has already challenged another governor candidate, Steve Gaynor, as well as Matt Salmon, to sign on to my plan for 1 day, 1 vote, on paper, hand counted, with no electronic tabulation whatsoever, literally with all of the voting done on paper ballots with voter ID, where it's hand counted and literally, hey, would you mind? I'm sorry, boss. Thanks. Yeah. Where we literally hand count everything in smaller districts, okay? That way, at the end of the day, we actually know who the president is. We eliminate mail-in balloting, except for the military, those that are frail, elderly, or disabled, and those people actually need to go ahead and have their ballot notarized before they turn it in. That is the only plan to completely clean up the elections in the state of Arizona. 1 day, 1 vote, on paper, no electronic tabulations. We will come here with a giant metal dumpster and we will burn the Dominion machines to the ground. That is not hyperbole, that is not a joke. When I am elected, we will literally do that. They will be burnt to the ground. They did it in Venezuela, we will do it here in Arizona. The third biggest point for the voters to know about, I touched on that a little bit already, is the COVID situation. We have known from the very beginning that this was corrupt, that this was fake, that literally, not that the virus is not real, but the government's response to this virus has been out of control. This has been a fight that they brought a sledgehammer when all they really needed to do was bring a fly swatter. 99.97% of us are going to survive COVID perfectly fine. When Doug Ducey outlawed ivermectin and outlawed hydroxychloroquine, that should have lit up everyone's attention buzzers that there's a major problem here, all right? That this is being done on purpose. We already know that. It was coordinated across the country and across the globe. We had governors in Nevada, Jay Sisolak, Jay Inslee in Washington, obviously corrupt Gavin Newsom in California. All these governors went out of their way to go and outlaw these medications. As a master's degree prepared nurse, I can tell you these medications actually work, and the studies show that they work. The only people that wouldn't show that these would work would be those that came out from the pharmaceutical industry that were funded by them. Before I was a nurse, I was a pharmaceutical salesman for 5 years, so I actually know the inside of that business. I'm telling you right now, when elected, COVID ends in the state of Arizona on day one. The same approach that Governor DeSantis has taken